Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. Welcome to the Mylio Photos Coffee Break. My name is Angela, and today we're going to look at the Actions menu inside of Mylio Photos. This is an area where you can find a lot of tools to take action on certain things in your library. And we're going to go over a lot of the options today so you can get an idea of how this can make your life easier. Before we dive in, I do want to let you know about some other events we have going on for you. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we have live Q&A sessions. These are Ask Me Anything sessions where you can come in and bring your questions about photography, family history, organization, backup, storage, anything remotely photography or Mylio adjacent. Those questions are welcome, and I will do my best to answer those for you. It's at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. And then on Friday, we have these sessions, the coffee breaks, short tutorials followed up by time for more questions. Next week, we're going to be talking about the Mylio Inbox, which is a folder in Mylio that's created when you install the application. We're going to talk about why it exists, how you should use it, and how you can keep it clean and organized. So that'll be next Friday, so make sure you join us for that. And with that, let's go ahead and jump over into today's presentation, which is 3 dots, endless possibilities, mastering the Mylio Photos Actions menu. So this is a menu that exists inside of Mylio Photos, and it exists to help you take action on the things that are in your library. So that can be on an individual photo, on a group of photos, on a folder, on an album. And this menu changes depending on what you have selected or if you have nothing selected. So it's the same menu with many, many different options that change based on what you click on. You can access this on a computer from the bottom right corner. So down in the very bottom right here, you'll see an icon like this 3 dots. That's the action menu you're going to find on a computer or a tablet. So let me show you that in Mylio really quick. Here's my Mylio library. Let me get rid of that. And down here in the bottom right corner, there's that 3 dots. I can click on that. There's the actions menu. If you have a machine that you can do a right click on, you can also right click on any selection and you get that same menu. So whether you go from a right click or you go down here to the bottom corner, so like on a touch device, just clicking on this menu, this icon at the bottom right is probably the easiest. If you are on a computer, oftentimes just right clicking is a more natural and intuitive way to access that particular menu. If you are on a phone, the UI is a little bit different. You're going to actually find this icon here, which is a box with 3 lines in it. And you're going to find that still down in that bottom right corner. And again, it's the same menu, just a slightly different icon that changes depending on what you have selected. So if you have a single image on the screen, that's what you're going to be taking an action on. If you have selected a folder or an album or something else, again, it's taking an action on whatever it is you have selected. So let's go ahead and take a look in Mylio at what this looks like when you see different areas, what you have different things selected. Let's take a look at how this menu changes. So when you're in Mylio, you go in and you can see what's selected by whatever you have in the blue border here. So right now I've got an individual image selected. I can go down here to the bottom right corner and click my actions menu, and that's going to show me what I can do with this photo. I could take and make a new folder. I can make all sorts of actions to this photo. I can select everything or nothing. I can rotate this photo. So everything that's in this menu is directed at whatever I have currently selected. Let me go ahead and jump out to, let's say, our albums view, and I'm going to select an album. And if I go down here and take that same menu, you'll see this menu now has very different options because it's actions that I can take on this specific album. So whether it's an album you have selected, a folder, an individual picture, or a group of pictures, that all changes depending on what's selected. So I can go into this particular album and grab a specific picture or a group of pictures. And again, that's going to change what those options are because of what I have selected. So as you navigate through Mylio Photos, what you select is going to change and affect what options you have available in that actions menu. And again, I can get to this by selecting those images and right clicking, and it's the same menu as I get from that bottom right corner. And what that does is it physically takes those pictures from whatever folder they're currently stored in on your hard drive and can move them to a new location. So I click move to folder. I can choose what folder I want those to go into. Let's say I want those to go into family history and a specific family history folder. I can go ahead and select that and move them to that new location. So this is a great way to help you reorganize as you're going through things in different parts of your library to get things back to where you want them to be. So that's one option that you can look at there in the actions menu. The next one is deleting files. This is a permanent action, but it's also a very handy one because you're going to come across pictures that you no longer want. So if I go here to my all photos view, and I've got a screenshot here that I did actually getting ready for this presentation that I no longer need. I can go in here and say this screenshot I don't want anymore, and I can right click on that and say delete file. I can also just click delete on my keyboard. That'll pull up the same dialog. Click delete and delete from all devices. And that removes that from my Mylio library, as well as from all of my different hard drives that I have connected to Mylio. The thing that happens there when you delete something is it goes to your system trash. And then from your system trash, once you empty the trash, it is permanently gone. So that's something you want to take with intention. You want to delete things on purpose and know that when you're doing that, you're actually doing it because you want to. So be very cautious because it is a permanent action, but there are ways. So here's another one. I got a blurry picture of trying probably to take a picture of a cat. So again, I can just hit delete on my keyboard, or again, right click, delete file, and delete that from all my devices. So again, very handy to have that actions menu right where I can get to it. Next up is exporting and sharing. One of the things that I know all of us want to do once we get our stuff organized, or as we're organizing things and we find something interesting, we want to share and export that with friends and family. So of course, you can go over here to the share icon in the upper right corner, but you can also just right click on a file and use the share option right here. So you have export and share, very handy. Again, right click or use that actions button right down there in the bottom right corner. So again, it's putting all of these tools right at your fingertips. Another handy one is renaming files. If you're on an organization journey and you're wanting to give your files a file name that's more descriptive than img_123, you can go over here to the info panel, or you can just right click on this and say rename files. So there it is, rename file. That's going to open up my info panel for me and put me right into the field where I can go to rename my file. So I can change that file name, and let's just call that cat sofa because that's what it is. It is ridiculous, I know. And I can go ahead and change the file name. And again, that's an action that's not only I'm taking in Mylio, but I'm taking in my file system. So when you make a change to your metadata inside Mylio Photos, it actually is changing it on your hard drives as well. Next up, we have new albums. If you like to group things in lots of different ways, I use albums for groups of family photos. I use it to group together things for different projects I'm working on. Albums are really handy for that kind of stuff. So again, that right click or that contextual menu using the actions button here in the bottom right, I can take these pictures from remodeling my bathroom and I can select all of these different pictures that are related to that. And I can put those into an album, which is a virtual grouping that lets me go directly to those pictures and I can see them all at once. So again, I would right click on this and say add to album. And then I can go ahead and go back to my top level. I have a section in here for projects. Somewhere there we go, remodel and refinish projects. And I can go ahead and go into that and I can see if I have one already for this particular project. I can say new album and office bathroom and create. And I've now created that album, continue, and that's going to take all of those pictures. Now, when I go into my albums view, I can go ahead and see all those pictures. So again, the actions menu is all about making those actions that you want to take for your specific pictures, putting them right at your fingertips so you can use them whenever you need. Again, for organization, creating a new folder. A folder is a physical folder that lives on your hard drives, whereas albums are virtual. Folders are new organizations. So I can do that again directly from this. If I go here to my folders view and I go into my photos folder, and let's say I go down here and I want to make a new folder inside of 2025. I found some new images and I want to put that folder there. I can right click here and say new folder. And that's going to go ahead and create a new folder in Mylio and on my hard drive. So putting those things right at your fingertips. Adding categories. This is a really nice organizational tool inside of Mylio Photos. You can group and sort through your things in a lot of different various ways. Okay, so adding a category is an organizational tool inside of Mylio Photos that lets you group things by different categories. There are several that are built in, and then you can add your own custom categories. It's a way to filter. And let's say you want to have your family photos, your work photos, pictures of your kids, pictures of your pets, pictures of broad groupings. You can go ahead and do that either by clicking on like a tap to categorize here on a specific folder, or again, I can right click on that and say add category. So that's going to be particularly for individual images. Let me go ahead and go into some images here. So we right click on those and I can now say add category, and I can go ahead and put those into whatever category they belong. So again, quick and easy tools right at your fingertips. AutoEnhance is if you want to start editing your photos. Mylio's got some great editing tools. We talked about those a couple of weeks ago in a coffee break. But if you want to do a quick edit of some of your pictures, you can just right click on that and you can choose to AutoEnhance, auto tone. So let's go ahead and just say an auto tone. I didn't like that edit, so I can just do an undo, and we can even try an AutoEnhance. So it's just quick edits that you can apply just by a right click on your pictures, or again, from that actions menu down in the bottom right corner. Select all or none. If you're wanting to make an action on everything that you're looking at, this is really super handy. So if you were in a folder and everything in this folder needs something, maybe you're wanting to add a keyword to all of these things, you can go ahead and right click on this and say select all, or go down here to your actions menu. If you go to any particular container, if you're in all photos view, selecting all will select every picture in your library. If you're in a folder, selecting all will select everything in that folder. So I can go here and say select all, and you'll notice everything now that I'm looking at in this container all has those blue borders. So anything I do from this point, if I go ahead and right click on this and take an action, I'm now acting on everything that's selected. So that's how that works. Select all. And then again, once everything is selected, you can go up here and say select none. And these are really handy to have because when you're on especially a touchscreen device, if you don't have a keyboard handy, having those there as buttons is really super helpful. On a keyboard, when you're on, I'm just sitting here at my computer, I can also do a Command or Control A to select all. And that's a really easy way to do that as well. All right, and then finally, deleting rejected photos. We've talked a lot in different sessions about going through and culling and marking things with pick flags and reject flags. And reject flags just marks it with a reject flag, a black flag. It puts an overlay over the image, it grays it out, or you have the option to hide them. But those images are still in your library and you might not want them there. So if you get to a point where you're ready to clear those out and evaluate, maybe you're ready to be done with them, I can go up here to everything for, say, 2024. I can right click on this and say delete rejected photos. And that's going to take a look at all of those folders that I have selected. And if I've rejected anything, it's going to go ahead and ask me, are there 61 items there? Are you sure you want to delete? And yes, I can delete those from all of my devices. So just a really good cleanup tool to have in your pocket. All right, a few things in this menu that you might have missed, things that are worth exploring, is hiding photos. You might not know it, but Mylio has the option to hide things in your library. So most of us, when we're working on our own personal libraries, we are working in the everything space, meaning everything is visible. You'll notice that because I'm doing a public demo right now, I am in what we call the public space. And that gives me the option to hide different media in my library. By doing that, I can go ahead and say, you know what, there are pictures that are personal that I don't want anybody to see. Maybe this bike ride here. I can right click on a folder. I can do it on a picture. And I can say here under privacy, hide folder or unhide folder. So this is not removing it from your library. It's just removing it from this particular view. So you can have an area where you can decide what you want people to see, what you want easily accessible, and what's just personal stuff. So if I have receipts or documents, things that don't need to be, if I'm wanting to hand over my phone to have people look at stuff, I might not want them to have to see all my screenshots and all the other clutter. I can say hide those things because they're important. Maybe I want to keep them, but I want them only to see the good pictures. So hiding is a great way to do that. You may also seeing here that we have Rescan SmartTags and Rescan Faces. These are really helpful for when you think Mylio needs to give something a little bit of extra attention. Okay, so you'll notice down under the smart tags in the right column, it has smart tags that are generated whenever you import new media into Mylio. You have the option to click those off if you don't think that they apply. Now, if you get a little bit too aggressive with that and you remove a bunch of them and you're like, well, maybe I want to have some of those back, you can rescan smart tags, and that's going to tell Mylio to regenerate those AI generated tags that are object recognition for your photos. Similarly with rescan faces, if you have pictures where you have ignored people, or you want Mylio to take another pass and be like, no, I think there are people here you should have identified, you can go ahead and choose rescan faces. And that's going to bring back pictures that you ignored. And it may sometimes find pictures that were not found at the initial pass. And that can often happen because over time, especially if you've been using Mylio for a long time, our face tagging algorithm can change and improve. So what we have today in the app is different than what we had 3 or 4 years ago. So if your pictures were run through the face tagging 3 or 4 years ago, and it didn't find things because it was an older algorithm, you can run rescan faces again, and that could potentially find new faces. We also have the copy function, which lets you copy and paste to other areas on your computer. This is by far one of my favorite things about Mylio is I can take pictures that are here in my Mylio library. I can right click on this and choose copy, excuse me, and then I can go into another application. I can go into a Word document or into an email, and I can easily just paste that image. I don't need to go through an export. I don't need to create a new file. I can just copy what I have in Mylio and paste it somewhere else. And I find that to be super helpful, very useful for my library. Scan for changes is another one. This one is hidden underneath the more folder actions. You're only going to see this in the folder view, and you have to be in the everything space. So make sure you're in the everything space here. Go to spaces, everything, and then you can right click on a folder and go into more folder actions. Oh, it's there even though I'm not in everything. And say scan for changes. Moving to folder, relocating to folder on disk. These are things that you should only take up when you're in the everything space. But scan for changes is right there under more folder actions. And this is really helpful if you are making changes out in the file system. Maybe you're editing with a third-party app and you save something back to that folder and Mylio hasn't picked it up yet. And you want to speed that process up a little bit. You can say scan for changes, and that'll tell Mylio to prioritize scanning that folder. It may not still be immediate, but it's going to get it in the queue a little bit faster if you have other things going on. You also have this option to remove folder from catalog. This is going to be if you're at the top level of folder view. So if you double click the folders view here and you're in one of your top level folders, you do have the option to disconnect, but not delete, a folder from your library. So I can go here to my Apple Photos folder or into any other folder here at the top level. If I right click or open up that actions menu, there's an option to remove folder from catalog. Now, you don't want to take this lightly. This is something you definitely want to do intentionally, but if it's a folder that you added by accident and you no longer want Mylio to watch that folder, you can remove it from your library. That doesn't delete anything from your hard drive. It just tells Mylio, this folder is no longer associated with my Mylio library. In doing so, if those pictures were in albums or categories, things like that, you would lose that organization. But it doesn't delete anything from your hard drive, which I think is a really important distinction. You also have the option to reveal in Finder, Explorer, or External. And this is where if you need to find a particular image and you want to find out where it lives in your file system, you can again right-click on a folder or a file. And at the bottom of that actions menu, you're going to find a reveal in Finder if you're on Mac, Explorer if you're on Windows, and External if you're wanting to find it in your external drives like a vault. So if you have external drives that you've designated as Mylio vaults, clicking external will show you that location in your external drives. And if you have multiple, it'll pop up and ask you, which one do you want to look at, which I find really helpful. I do that all the time. Another one that's really fun is you can set cover photos. So for your folders, your people, your albums, and your events, you can choose a custom cover photo. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a picture that's part of that particular grouping. You can choose a cover photo from anywhere in your library by right-clicking or using that actions menu and choosing set cover and choosing what you want to set that cover for. It's just a really fun way to customize the look and feel of your library. You can also download optimized or originals. The way that Mylio works is it uses, for most devices, a sync policy called Space Saver. So you have your optimized or thumbnails of any given image on most of your viewing devices. If you need a full quality version of that file, you can choose download optimized for a higher resolution picture, or originals if you need that original quality file to be temporarily on that particular machine. That is a really handy way if you're wanting to do photo edits, but you're on your secondary computer and your first computer is on and running Mylio. Just click download originals. Mylio will go to your other machine and fetch that high quality file. And then finally, we have add to quick album. I still think my favorite way to add to the quick album is just to drag things down to the bottom of the screen, but you can also right click and tell it to add things to the quick album. So those are just a handful of the commands inside the actions menu that you might have missed. There are many, many more. And like I said, it changes depending on what you're looking at in Mylio Photos. If you're in the all photos view or if you're inside of a folder, and what you have selected will change the contents of that menu. So lots of options there, but it puts a host of different things, actions you can take on your media right at your fingertips. So right click on your images, right click on your folders, or on those touchscreen devices, use that icon down in the bottom right corner, and that's going to go ahead and give you access to all of those tools. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Friday, and I will see you next time.